At least one person died, 18 were wounded, and 26 others were arrested after a new episode of police repression in the region of Apurimac, Dina Boluarte's homeland. In Mexico, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador welcomed his Cuban counterpart as part of his official visit aimed at strengthening relations of friendship and cooperation. And in Türkiye and Syria, rescue teams continue to recover survivors more than 130 hours after the deadly earthquake. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Peru, at least one person died, 18 were injured, and 26 others were arrested after a new episode of police repression in the region of Apurimac, Dina Boluarte's homeland. According to preliminary reports, a group of citizens who were mobilizing in the district of Chalhuanca in Apurimac were brutally intervened by agents of the national police with tear gas and bombs and buckshot. Human rights organizations denounced the detention of more than 80 people during the mobilizations. Likewise, social movements reiterated their demand for the resignation of Dina Boluarte, the closing of Congress, the convocation of Constituent Assembly, and the liberation of Pedro Castillo. The director of the National Electoral Council in the Ecuadorian province of Guayas, John Gamboa, denied the possibility of fraud in the region during the scrutiny of last Sunday's elections. Gamboa responded to the accusations of the vice president of the National Electoral Council, Enrique Pita, about a presumed parallel computing center that printed false referendum reports. Gamboa assured that Pita's accusations are politically motivated. However, he acknowledged that there were 27,200 minutes with numerical inconsistencies, and due to pressure of the electoral body and other state functions to complete the counting process, the filling of the tally sheets were modified. He also added that the popular will was not tampered with.
In the electoral delegation of Guayas, no parallel center has been set up to print additional tally sheets, as they maliciously try to make the citizens believe, since it is impossible to print other tally sheets due to the security of the scrutiny system itself, not even to modify their data due to the signature of the originals by the members of the security board. I will not allow them to use my name for political purposes, and not even to imply that there was fraud in this electoral process.
The International Poetry Festival takes place in Argentina. This is the third edition of the festival. It brings together established national and international artists in various cultural venues across the country. Our correspondent Carolina Silvestre gives us more details.
The biggest poetry festival on the continent is held at the Néstor Kirchner Cultural Center, the Cabildo Historical Museum, and the Casa Patria Grande.
It's a source of pride. Not only what's happening, but also what's happening these days. With so many people coming here, you can see that there is a need not only to meet, but to share poetry. It's also the fact that we have many international visitors here as part of this festival, so that the house is more than appropriate for that.
Gabriela Borrelli, director of the Poetry Festival, explains its purpose.
It's about bringing together different views of poetry, different aesthetics of poetry, and a circulation of poets who know each other. This is also suggested to create networks. Many poets come from different provinces.
Poetry Ya is a 9-day event that highlights the poetic production that has been developed in our territory for decades. It also features the most recent creations.
We set out to strengthen the Poetry Festival now. This is already the third edition. We say this year we are going to extend it. We realized that the attendance in previous year had been impressive, and there is a need and a fervor for poetry that surprised us all. So we decided to make it bigger, broader and very varied. There is everything in the festival. So the aim is to call for a celebration of the word and poetry.
Poetry's connection with other disciplines marks this cultural event, and this was showed in the Cabildo Museum.
We had the opportunity to welcome the Poetry Festival and a lot of poets on the balcony reciting about democracy and revolution in an activity organized by the festival, which started from the Kitchener Cultural Center and passed through the main pyramid, where the dynamic also took place. Then we also have the activity of language movement, which has to do with dance and poetry in a connected way. And also the dynamic here in the patio, with a very large presence of young people above all.
The proposal includes an audiovisual and performative exhibition, training activities, and a permanent of the reader meetings through master classes, readings, and tributes.
Carolina Silvestre, TeleSUR, Buenos Aires.
The President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, welcomed his Cuban counterpart Miguel Díaz-Canel as part of his official visit to the nation and to strengthen relations of friendship and cooperation. The Cuban president and his wife, Liz Cuesta Pedraza, arrived at Campeche's International Airport at 8:30 a.m. local time. According to the agenda, both presidents will visit the archaeological zone of Etna to assess the progress of the railroad project. They will also hold a meeting with health personnel and will later hold a bilateral meeting to discuss issues of common interest. Upon the arrival of the Cuban president to the country, both presidents offered a brief message to the press highlighting the friendly relationship that exists between the two peoples. The president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio da Silva, met with his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden as part of the renewal of bilateral relations. During the meetings between the two presidents, Lula da Silva was accompanied by Marina Silva, head of the environment, Fernando Haddad, head of the treasury, and Aniel Franco, head of racial equality. In this first meeting, the Brazilian president discussed with his U.S. counterpart issues such as the environment, trade relations between both nations, democracy, and respect for human rights. Lula asked the U.S. president for his support in the creation of a collaboration organization to take measures to safeguard the environment and protect the Amazon region. President Lula da Silva also thanked Biden for his government's recognition and support after the attacks by the extreme right-wing sectors in Brasilia. The Dominican Republic, represented by the Tigres del Licey, won the 2023 Caribbean Series with a 3-0 victory over host club Venezuela in Caracas on Friday night. It marks the 11th time the Tigres have won the title and the first time since 2008. No other club has won more Caribbean Series titles, and the Tigres clinched the 22nd Caribbean Series championship for the Dominican Republic. The Dominican team scored single runs in the top of the 2nd, 5th, and 9th inning, but the biggest lift came from the mound, where starter Cesar Valdez threw 6 1/3 scoreless frames, while yielding only 3 hits, walking none and striking out 6. The 37-year-old right-hander threw 78 pitches, 54 for strikes, before turning things over to the bullpen, which silenced Venezuela's bats the rest of the way. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In Turkey, rescue teams and thousands of volunteers continue their efforts to find more survivors after over 130 hours of the devastating earthquake in the southeast of the country. Over 100,000 rescuers and emergency personnel are working in affected area despite the difficulties caused by the high level of destruction. Over 1,000 registered aftershocks and the cold weather. According to local media, these rescuers managed to pull out from the rubble a family of 5 people who survived inside their collapsed house for 5 days. A 3-year-old girl and her father were also rescued from the rubble in Islahi city, and an hour later, a 7-year-old girl was rescued in Hatay province. According to authorities, about 12 people were rescued this Saturday. Meanwhile, hopes remains high to find more survivors as efforts continue. The Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said the death toll rose to 21,848. Health authorities registered 80,804 injured so far. Moreover, experts have warned that epidemics are starting to threaten the 10 southern provinces of Türkiye hit by the earthquake, a vast area where some 13 million people live and where basic services have been severely damaged. Specialists agree that portable toilets are a priority need and that given the scarcity of all hygiene materials for both those affected and the personnel carrying out the rescue work, it could mean a danger to public health. They warn that an epidemic could soon emerge. On Friday, Health Ministry confirmed 125 new deaths from the earthquake that struck Syria last Monday, bringing the total number of dead to 1,387 and of injured to 2,326. Likewise, Hussein Makhlouf, Minister of Municipal Administration and head of the Relief Committee, revealed that 294,000 people were left homeless. All those displaced by the earthquake are now in over 20 reception centers set up in schools, mosques, churches, and sports halls. Meanwhile, Major General Safwan Pahlul, head of Syria's civil defense, claimed that the search for survivors on the rubble of collapsed building is still underway and assured that the possibility of finding survivors still exists, but is weakening as time goes by. Sudan sent a 40-member search and rescue team to Turkey to support disaster relief efforts after devastating earthquakes that left thousands dead and several thousands injured. The team departed from Khartoum International Airport early Friday morning and includes 7 medical personnel from the Civil Defense Forces, 1,000 blankets, 250 tents, and food material, as well as a large number of search and rescue equipment. Earlier in the week, more than 22,000 people are confirmed dead in Turkey and Syria after Monday's earthquakes. Syria's civil defense group, the White Helmets, have described the situation in the country as absolutely catastrophic. Four people died on Friday in southern Mozambique as a result of the heavy rains that have been affecting the region almost uninterruptedly for the past 3 days. According to local media, one of the deceased was a minor victim of the floods in Matola municipality of the Mozambican's capital, while the others perished during the night after several walls collapsed. So far, the rains remain intermittent and have caused residents to abandon their home and left practically impassable streets. The rains also led to the collapse of a bridge which hindered access to communities on the outskirts of the capital such as Koba, Makanda, Mafabuka, and Mahalan. According to authorities, the road traffic between the southern communities will be even more compromised during the next hours due to the preeminence of flows of up to 3,000 cubic meters per second in the fleet currents that reach Maputo from abroad. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. After a meeting with Russian authorities on Friday, the International Atomic Energy Agency described the talks as an important step for the creation of a security zone in Zaporizhzhia. The meeting between the Director General of the Russian State Atomic Energy Corporation, Alexei Likashev, and the Director General of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi, aimed at finding better social conditions for the personnel at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Grossi pointed out that the situation at the plant remains unstable due to its being located in the zone of military operation between Russia and Ukraine. The situation at the facility is delicate due to the continuous attack by the Kiev army reported by Russian forces. Russian Foreign Minister blamed the United States government for the sabotage against the Nord Stream gas pipelines in June 2022. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova referred to the recent article published by the Pulitzer Prize winner Seymour Hersh, in which the journalist blamed the U.S. executive for ordering the sabotage against the pipeline. Zakharova stated that Moscow is not surprised by Hersh's statement, since it was known from the beginning that the explosions against Nord Stream were only possible with the participation of a military power. The journalist pointed out that it was not by chance that Norway supported the American divers, as he stated in his publication. Hersh's investigation revealed that U.S. Navy divers carried out the action to cut off Russian revenues from the sale of gas to Germany. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen as part of the latter's official visit to China. During the meeting, President Xi informed that China will encourage more Chinese companies to invest and start business in Cambodia. The Chinese president also pledged to support Cambodia in the construction of transportation infrastructure. The Cambodian Prime Minister reiterated that his government firmly supports the One China policy and the Belt and Road Initiative. Both sides said they were ready to expand their countries' mutual cooperation and people-to-people cultural exchanges. The spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Mao Ning, made an official statement about the U.S. reaction on the unmanned civilian balloon that accidentally entered the U.S. airspace.
With regard to the unexpected incident of the unmanned civilian Chinese aircraft accidentally entering U.S. airspace due to force majeure, China has explained the situation many times and stated its position. The U.S. has a resolution is pure political manipulation and hype. China is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposes it.
The Prime Minister of Moldova, Natalia Gavrilița, announced on Friday her resignation, which implies the automatic resignation of the entire cabinet. After a year and a half at the head of her country's government, she communicated the end of her mandate. Moldova is going through great difficulties due to the current Ukrainian crisis, which has severely affected its energy infrastructure. The resignation of her government was also demanded by the opposition, which accused Gavrilica's executive of failing to negotiate better agreements with energy-supplying countries. According to exiled politician Ilan Chor, her administration failed to meet the challenges and led Moldova into an energy and economic crisis. We have come to the end of this news brief, and you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and you can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.